Hey kids, it's time for story time again. So today we're going to talk about a man who got swallowed by a big fish. Can you imagine being inside of the belly of a big fish? Well, we're going to talk about that man today in our story. So listen carefully. Jonah and the Big Fish, written by Catherine Sully, illustrated by Simona Sanfilippo. Most of the time, Jonah was a good man. So one day, God asked Jonah to do a job for him. Go to the city of Nineveh and deliver a message for me. But Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh. Instead, he ran away. Jonah found a boat to take him far away from Nineveh. He hid below deck and fell fast asleep. As he slept, the wind blew and the waves crashed. A storm rocked the boat, and still Jonah slept. The captain of the boat came to wake Jonah. "How can you sleep in the storm?" cried the captain. "Get up and say a prayer." The boat rocked this way and that way. The sailors were all afraid. "Throw the cargo overboard," the captain cried. But it was no use. The storm grew wilder and wilder. "It's my fault," said Jonah. "I didn't do as God asked me." The sailors were shocked and afraid. "God is angry with me," said Jonah. "Throw me overboard and the storm will stop." Now the sailors really didn't want to throw Jonah overboard. They prayed and they prayed, but still the storm rocked the boat. Finally, they threw Jonah, splosh, into the waves, and the storm stopped. Jonah sank to the water. Deeper and deeper. Jonah began to pray. "I'm sinking down. Don't let me drown." Then he saw a great big fish swim toward him. The fish opened his mouth wide, wider, and swallowed him in one gulp. Jonah sat inside the fish's belly. He had plenty of time to think. He had run away from God and was punished. He had prayed to God and was saved. Now Jonah thanked God, and God forgave him. After 3 days, the big fish burped. Jonah shot out of his mouth and landed on a beach. This time, Jonah went to the city of Nineveh to deliver God's message. The people there were wicked. They didn't listen to God either. For 3 days, Jonah walked through the city calling, "Mend your ways in 40 days, or Nineveh will be destroyed." When they heard Jonah's message from God, the people of Nineveh were shocked. Even the king of Nineveh was shocked. They had forgotten that God was watching them. They were very, very sorry that they had been bad and decided to be good from then on. So God forgave them. Jonah sat on a hill outside Nineveh and waited for the city to be destroyed. But it was very hot and nothing happened. Jonah became very grumpy. God said to Jonah, "Why are you grumpy? I forgave you because I love you. I forgave the people of Nineveh because I love them." And finally, Jonah understood that God's love was big enough for everyone. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being swallowed by a big fish? And can you imagine when God asks you to do something, running away? Well, that's what happened to Jonah. God asked Jonah to do something. "Jonah, go to Nineveh and tell them that if they don't change, I'm going to destroy their city." And instead of doing what God told him to do, Jonah thought he could run from God. Can you run away from God? Yeah, I don't think so. There's not a place you can run. There's not a place you can hide. God knows where you are all the time. So even though Jonah tried to run away, God knew where he was at. And God created this big storm. And finally, the sailors, although they didn't want to, they threw Jonah overboard. And what swallowed him? A big fish. And how many days was he in the belly of that big fish? 3 days. And how did he get out? Well, the fish burped him out up on the beach. And then Jonah decided he needed to follow what God's will was. And so he went to Nineveh and he told the people of Nineveh, "Hey, if you don't change, God's going to destroy your city." And what did the people of Nineveh do? They changed. They asked God for forgiveness. And what did God do? He forgave them. Why? Because he loves them. That's right. Well, did that make Jonah happy? No, no. He became grumpy. He sat outside in all the heat and sun and waited for Nineveh to be destroyed, but nothing happened. And he was mad about that. God said, Jonah, why are you so mad? I forgave you for what you did when you ran away and you asked for forgiveness. I love the people of Nineveh too, and they asked for forgiveness, and so I forgive them. So Jonah finally understood, and he decided that he needed to obey God and do what God wanted him to do. So that's our story today. But do you remember that song about Jonah? We're going to try to sing it, so you can sing it with me. Ready? Who did, who did swallow Jojo Jonah? Who did, who did swallow Jojo Jonah? Who did, who did swallow Jojo Jonah? Who did swallow Jonah? Who did swallow Jonah? Who did swallow Jonah? Up. A big fish, big fish, big fish, big fish, big fish swallow Jojo Jonah. Big fish, big fish, big fish, big fish, fish swallow Jojo Jonah. Big fish, big fish, big fish, big fish, big fish swallow Jojo Jonah. Big fish swallow Jonah. A big fish swallowed Jonah. A big fish swallowed Jonah. Up. All right, so we studied about Jonah and the big fish that swallowed him. And from this lesson, we found out and learned that God, when he tells us to do something, wants us to do it. And he doesn't think we're going to run away. He expects us to do what he says. But if we do try to run away, what happens? Well, God knows where we're at. He knows exactly where we go. So we really can't run away, can we? Well, Jonah found that out. Jonah got swallowed by a big fish. I hope I don't ever get swallowed by a big fish. But I'm going to do what God tells me to do when he tells me. How about you? Yeah, that's what I thought. You will too, won't you? All right. Well, this is the end of our story. We'll end right now. We will see you soon. We love you. We miss you. But until the next time,